How's it going, everyone? I want to go over a bunch of PlayStation Store deals as a part of the end of the year sale under the price of $4. Usually, I try to keep it to under $5, but there's a lot of good stuff under the price of $4 here as well, and well under $4 on top of that. So we'll go through all of it. Let's just get right into it. Let's start things off with Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun. We'll go through everything pretty quick since there's a ton of stuff to go over. Great tactical title done by Mimimi Games. Unfortunately, the studio is shutting down development of future titles. They also just put out Shadow Gambit, which was really well received. That game is getting some DLC, and then I think they're done creating new titles. Shadow Tactics had a great setting, great aesthetic, and did have some challenging gameplay, but a variety of different difficulty settings if you do want a more accessible experience. And then, yeah, if you like that Edo period, you'll enjoy it quite a bit. Overall, a pretty solid tactics-based game, and for this price of $4, definitely a good pickup. Hopefully, the studio, whoever, you know, still is going to be in game development, they find their footing, because they did a pretty good job with Shadow Tactics at the very least. And Shadow Gambit, I'm sure, is a game that a lot of people will check out once it's discounted a little bit. Next up, we do have a couple of Outlast titles. Might as well mention what is available. Outlast 1 is $1.99. Outlast 2 is $1.49. Outlast 2 is available through PlayStation Plus Extra. Both really well done horror games. Outlast 1 had the benefit of having that newness factor for Outlast, but both games are worthwhile for horror fans, so certainly at these price points, check them out. Speaking of horror games, SOMA is $2.99 for PlayStation Plus subscribers. I often talk about it when I talk about Frictional, but I think this is their best game that they've put out. I know a lot of people love the new Amnesia game, but I thought SOMA was tremendous from a psychological horror game standpoint. It's just incredibly well developed from an atmosphere standpoint. It's excellent, just awesome game. It is on the shorter side, of course. It's kind of what you expect out of a Frictional title, but yeah, $2.99, definitely a good price there. Evil Within 1, might as well mention a bunch of horror games. 85% off for $2.99. Obviously, this does have more of an emphasis on its action gameplay than, let's say, Outlast or Soma. A pretty well-done game in its own right. Solid narrative and a pretty decent game at this price point. Would recommend you to check out Evil Within 2 as well. Next up, we have Trine Enhanced Edition, which is down to $3.74. Trine is a game that I feel like everybody should at least check out. Like, it's been a long-running franchise, and the earlier Trine games were really, really well-received. Puzzle platforming, pretty well done games as far as fantasy platformers go, and a very good price that we have with Trine Enchanted Edition. Next up, we have Nexomon, 60% off for $3.99. Look, we have a lot of these Pokemon clones that do come out. Nexomon has seemingly garnered a pretty solid core fan base, and we're getting another Nexomon title here in the future that'll be a much bigger budget title. Catch, evolve, and collect over 300 unique Nexomon. Assemble the ultimate Nexomon team to save your friends and save the world. Clash against legendary champions and become a hero in this epic journey. You're never gonna get Pokemon on PlayStation, but you know, you will have titles like Nexomon. Obviously, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is available as well, but for $3.99 a title to check out. Next up, we have Magicka 2, which is 80% off for $2.99. Often talk up Magicka 2 from the standpoint of if you want a over-the-top, chaotic, cooperative game, Magicka 2 is such a great option. It is just a great time with friends. I wouldn't really recommend Magicka solo. I mean, I'm sure you can have a decent time with it, but with Magicka, I feel like the fun is had when you do play this game cooperatively, and it's just a ton of fun. You don't take it too seriously, but for the time you spend with it, I feel like you're gonna have a really good time. So $2.99 on that. Panzer Dragoon, the remake, is 90% off for $2.49. This is a remake that isn't beloved by a lot of people. Now, obviously, I don't have that nostalgic attachment towards Panzer Dragoon, but that was a game that was beloved by many as a Sega Saturn classic. The Sega Saturn was kind of one of those unsung consoles, but Panzer Dragoon was a game you heard about all the time, and it had this very, very high price point if you wanted the original Sega Saturn version. This remake is kind of thrown together, but guess what? It's $2.49. It's readily available on a lot of major platforms, so from that standpoint, at this price point, I think it's a pretty good pickup. Next up, we have The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3, $1.49 on this. Very much an action dungeon-crawling Diablo-style game, but an action RPG set in a gothic noir Europe, and you know what to expect out of these action dungeon crawlers like this. But if you're looking for that style of experience, $1.49 seems like a good price to me. Next up, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, 90% off for $1.99. Often talk up Mirror's Edge Catalyst, just on the basis that, yes, the game had a lot of hype, especially from those that loved Mirror's Edge in 2008. Catalyst still offered a game that I thought was fairly decent. Was it $60 decent? Maybe not, but for $1.99, literally 1/30th of the initial price point when it came out back in 2015 or 2016, I think it's a pretty good pickup, and I think the visuals hold up really, really well. Like, graphically, it's still a pretty impressive game, and a lot of the parkour elements are still pretty good. Catalyst kind of had the issue where I feel like the original Mirror's Edge, its strength was leaning on its linear focus. I feel like Catalyst kind of faltered in trying to open it up a little bit, but overall, for $1.99, I still think this is a great deal, and for the quality of game you're getting, sure, it's not blowaway, it's not a game that'll ever set up another Mirror's Edge title, at least I don't think so, but, you know, for this own experience, I think $1.99 is pretty good, and you don't need to play Mirror's Edge 08 to play this. The Mirror's Edge 08 is kind of hard to play on PlayStation. I mean, there's no real way to play it unless you dig up your PS3, so a little bit of a bummer there, but nonetheless, $1.99 for that is great. Dragon's Crown Pro, 80% off for $3.99. This is available on PlayStation Plus Premium, not Extra, for whatever reason. I think it's because it's a PS3 title that was upgraded for PS4. Great action RPG by Vanillaware. Even though I think it's Vanillaware's weakest game, I still thought it was a pretty decent title. Visually, it's great, and the gameplay is solid. Soundtrack is pretty good. You know, when you have all of those elements in a game for $3.99, it's a pretty easy recommendation. Amnesia the Collection is $2.99 for Plus subscribers. This includes Amnesia The Dark Descent, which is an iconic horror game by Frictional, and Machine for Pigs. Amnesia Machine for Pigs, that is. Machine for Pigs, not as well received. But to get both titles for $2.99, $1.50 a pop, I feel like that's a no-brainer and easy recommendation there. Next up, we have Lost in Random, which is a game that somebody in the comments section recommended me to mention. It's down to $2.99, available with EA Play. A gothic fairy tale inspired action adventure where every citizen's fate is determined by the roll of a dice. Ruled by a wicked queen, the kingdom of Random is divided into 6 shadowy realms where life is dictated by accursed black dice. Received pretty well as an action title. Really dark ambiance and tone attached to the game as well, but for $2.99, another one to check out. Strange Brigade Digital Deluxe Edition is $3.99. Now, interestingly enough, Strange Brigade, the Standard Edition, is $4.99, but the Digital Deluxe is $3.99, one of those wonky pricings on the PlayStation Store. Embark on an exotic journey into the danger in a rip-roaring 1930s third-person action adventure. Does have cooperative play, fast-paced action, treacherous traps, and tales of daring to do. Game was received pretty strongly, and for $4 for the Digital Deluxe Edition seems like a pretty good buy there. And then lastly, just for memes, I wanted to mention Homefront The Revolution, which is 90% off for $1.99. Now, Homefront The Revolution, while this game is pretty terrible, surprisingly, it actually has a 4-star rating on the PlayStation Store. And there's a lot of games that are well under 4 stars. The game does have a way, and you guys can look into this, that you can play Time Splitters 2, I believe it is, within the game of Homefront The Revolution. That's a big reason why a lot of people buy Homefront The Revolution, so I did want to make mention of that. Homefront The Revolution itself is not a very good game. It had a very tumultuous development cycle, which is pretty well documented. The game itself is one of the worst games, in my opinion, that I've played on the PlayStation 4. Now, I haven't played a lot of the terrible titles on PS4, you know, some of the super lowly rated titles, but Homefront The Revolution is in the mix for one of the worst. It's unfortunate because I thought Homefront the original was such a compelling game from a single-player standpoint that Homefront The Revolution really didn't follow up on that as strongly as it could have, but you know, sometimes those are the breaks in the gaming development world. But if you do want to play Time Splitters 2, that is available through Homefront The Revolution. But that is going to do it for me. Again, a bunch of deals under the price of $4. This end of the year sale is honestly stacked with a ton of good stuff. Links to all of these deals, as always, in the description box below. That's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.